Hello, in this lesson we'll take an overview of the Reading and Use of English section of Cambridge's C1 Advanced. The first thing that needs to be said about the Reading and Use of English section is that it's one of the longest parts of the test. It lasts for 1 hour and 30 minutes and it's divided in 8 parts. The first part is a multiple choice clause. In other words, there is a text, there are blanks, and you're going to select the best option to complete the blank. This part measures reading. The second part is an open clause. There is another text then with blanks, but in this case there are no options. You just need to figure out the best word to complete the blank, and this measures your use of English. In other words, how you can handle the language, vocabulary, grammar, collocations, and so on. The third part is about word formation. Now, this is going to measure your ability to transform words. In other words, we call this affixation. There is going to be a text with blanks. They're going to give you a keyword, and you need to transform the word to add a suffix or a prefix or take it off so that it fits the text. This measures obviously use of English. Part 4 now is an exercise of keyword sentence transformation to measure your ability to handle syntax and also pragmatics. In other words, there are some key sentences. You need to transform them using a keyword and obviously to keep the same meaning. So that's why this measures the use of English. Again, part 5 is a typical text with multiple choice questions, so it measures reading. Part 6 is a cross-text multiple matching, so there will be 4 short texts and then some different questions related to the different categories in each of the text, and you need to match them. This measures obviously reading comprehension. Now part 7 is a gap text. There is a longer text that is just 1 page, and you need to find out the place of the sentences that have been removed in each paragraph. So each paragraph is missing a sentence. You have to find what they corresponds, and this measures your reading ability. Finally, the 8th part is another multiple matching exercise in which there are different short texts and you need to match different criteria that are found in the questions. So as you can see, this Reading and Use of English section is very long and you need to be very well prepared for it. Now let's see specifically what kind of things are being assessed. This is the construct of the Use of English section. First of all, this part assesses your grammatical competence and your ability to complement a sentence to select the correct word or words in order to complete an idea in a text. Number 2, they assess the use of collocations. If you remember, there are some words that go better with some other nouns, or that some verbs take specific preposition. That's what we call collocation. They're groups of words that go together, and this is another element that is assessed in the Use of English section. Now, a second element that is assessed is lexical competence, and in this case, of course, they will assess your knowledge of multi-word or phrasal verbs, right? All of those to go, to fall into, to bump into, to call out, to call off, and things like that. Another element that is assessed is the use of idiomatic expressions in English that you should be able to understand the meaning of. And of course, the semantic precision. That means that you have to find the correct word in order to fill a space in a sentence that has the meaning that is intended by the author in the text where the word needs to be added. A final element in Use of English is discourse competence, because in order to be able to complete the task, you need to be able to know the structure of a text. That means that if there is a missing word, you need to know what word it is. Is it a connector? Is it a noun? Is it a verb? You need to be able to identify the part of the text that is missing. And of course also cohesion and coherence, because the text is a unit that is closely tied by all of the different elements and all of the different connectors and reference, and in order to find the correct word in order to complete a text, you need to be able to know how the text hangs together. Okay, so this is basically, like I said, the construct that is measured in the use of English section. They're going to assess grammatical competence, lexical competence, but also discourse competence. So what do we mean by use of English? When we answer parts 2, 3, and 4 of this test, we're going to need 4 basic skills. First of all, we need to understand the discourse structure. In other words, how texts are organized. They're going to ask us to find a missing word in a text, and obviously the only thing that we have is the contextual, the discourse, and the grammatical clues. So then we need to understand how texts are organized, they are structured, so that we can find that missing word by using only these clues. The second skill is obviously affixation. So words can be transformed in different ways by using prefixes or suffixes, and basically they're going to give us a base word, and we need to find the appropriate prefixes or suffixes to make it match the context of a text. So it is important to see how we transform words by means of affixation. The third skill is transformation. Now this refers to syntax. So we're going to have to be able to change, to rephrase a sentence, by using a new keyword, keeping the pragmatic meaning. So the meaning has to be exactly the same, and we need to transform the sentence using a keyword that is going to be given to us. So sentence transformation is another very important skill. And finally, obviously, collocations. Now, why is it important to look at collocations? We said it before, a collocation is a group of 2 or more words that often go together. Now, for example, we say fast food, and we do not say quick food, even though it means exactly the same thing. Fast and quick are adjectives, they have the same meaning, but fast collocates with food. In other words, it goes together. If we say quick food, that can be understood by people, but it sounds weird. So when words collocate, they sound natural together, and when they do not, they sound strange, weird, and therefore in this kind of exercises that we're going to have, we need to find the words that collocate better together. So it's a matter of lexical choice. Now this is an example of part 2 of the use of English section. There is a text, and we need to be able to find all of the missing words in the text using only the contextual, the discourse, and the grammatical clues in the text. So we have no information, there are no options, we just need to figure it out by ourselves. Let's do this one together. The origin of language. The truth. Nobody really knows how language first began. So we see here that we need a link between the truth and nobody really knows. So we obviously know that it's the word is. The truth is, nobody really knows about how language first began. Let's look at the second sentence. Did we all start talking at around the same time of the manner in which our brains had begun to develop? So here we see that we have the preposition of and we have the time. Okay, so then we need like an explanation for that, and obviously the word will be because. Did we all start talking at around the same time because of the manner in which our brains had begun to develop? Let's move on. Although there is a lack of clear evidence, people have come up with various theories about the origins of language. One recent theory is that human beings have evolved in a way that we are programmed for language from the moment of birth. So we see have evolved in, and then we have a way. The word that we're looking for is such, right? Human beings have evolved in such a way that we're programmed for language from the moment of birth. In words, obviously here it's in other words. There's an explanation. Language came as a result of an evolutionary change in our brains at some stage. Language will be programmed into the brain, but okay. So here we see that what we need here, because we have the word well and then language and then its program, we need a modal verb that expresses probability. So it could be could, it could be may, or it could be might. The three of them could be correct answers here. Language could well be programmed, might will be programmed, might will be programmed into the brain, but and then we need something to make a contrast. In other words, we need to find an opposition, and a word, a connector that shows opposition is despite. So, but despite this, people still need stimulus from others around them. From studies, we know that children are isolated from human contact and have not learned. So we need here an adverb of time, right? So we will say, we know that when children are isolated from human contact, or whenever children are isolated from human contact, and obviously because this is a condition, we can also use if. So these three options will be correct. From studies, we know that if children are isolated, when children are isolated, whenever children are isolated from human contact and have not learned to construct sentences before they are 10, it is doubtful that they will ever do so. This research shows if, and then we have else, so we need something to contrast, right? It will be then nothing. This research shows if nothing else, and it could also be little, because it also expresses that opposition. So this research shows if nothing else, or if little else, that language is a social activity, not something invented. And obviously the other word is in isolation, right? So that would be the last correct sentence. Now we can see here then, to answer this part of the test, we need to know very well the structures of the text, and also we need to know about collocations, and we practice doing collocations. We need to practice to find out what words go with others. For example, we know that such a way, in other words, these are like collocations. These groups of words usually go together, and that's why we can figure them out. So this is an example of part 2. Now, how can you prepare for this part of the test? My suggestion is, first of all, that you search for articles on everyday topics. I will give you a list of topics later. In sources such as The Guardian, The Observer, or The Times, these are very famous British journals, and I suggest that you use British journals because B2 First is a British test, so everything that you will find will be in British English. So you will find some articles on everyday topics: travel, cities, commerce, science, and so on. The second thing that you're going to do is you're going to select some articles that are just between 150 and 200 words. Okay? Now, of course, some of the articles will be very long, and in this case, I suggest that you take just the introductory paragraphs. When the texts are too long, just the first 2 introductory paragraphs. Select a segment that is just between 150 and 200 words, because that's what the kind of things that you will find in the test. And after you have done that, you may download them and then edit them digitally, so that you can create your own close exercises by eliminating every 10th word in the text, and you're going to replace it with a blank. In other words, you're going to create your own exercises. After you have eliminated the words, now you will read the text again, and you will try to find out the word that is missing, the word that you removed. And of course, because you're going to eliminate every 10th word, the kind of words that you will eliminate will be random. Sometimes there will be nouns, sometimes there will be articles, prepositions, verbs, adverbs, and so on. Okay? So, you will try to answer, and then you will check your answers with the original text. This is very useful as a practice, because not only will you learn about the words and the exercises that you're going to be creating, but also you will get some information about new topics. You will learn new vocabulary. You will learn some expressions and new words that you will find in the text. So it's a very useful exercise that will prepare you for part number 2 in the use of English section. Okay, so try to do this. This is very useful, and this will prepare you more than just like completing grammar exercises. Now let's look at part 3 of the use of English section. In this part we get another clause. This means a text with blanks, and then we get keywords. If you see them on the right: profession, come, fit, endure, benefit, and able. Now we need to be able to adapt those words by adding prefixes or suffixes so that they match the content of our text. Okay, so we're going to do this exercise together. Training sports champions. What are the abilities that a sports person needs? So if you see there, we have a noun, sports person, right? Athlete. So we need to make the word profession match that blank. So we need to transform it into an adjective. So we add the suffix "o" so that it becomes professional. A professional sports person needs, right? Okay. Now to guarantee that opponents can be, we have the word come. We need a word that means to defeat someone. And obviously if we add over to come, the word becomes overcome, and overcome means to defeat. Okay, so to guarantee that opponents can be overcome, speed, stamina, and agility are essential, not to mention outstanding natural talent. Both a rigorous and comprehensive regime. So we have the word fit, but then obviously if we're talking about a regime, we need to transform it to make it fit the blank, so it will be a fitness regime, right? And a highly nutritious diet are vital for top level performance. It is carbohydrates rather than proteins and fat that provide athletes with the word is endure. We need a noun because we have an article, so we need a noun. So we need to make it a noun, and we add the suffix "ens" so that it becomes endurance, with the endurance that they need to compete. This means that pasta is more. We have the word benefit, but obviously we need here an adjective because we have the comparative more. So more requires an adjective. So the adjective that we can create from benefit is beneficial. Okay, pasta is more beneficial than eggs or meat. Such a diet enables them to move very energetically when required. Failure to follow a sensible diet can result in the, and then we have able. But if you see here, we're talking about a failure, so we need something negative. So to make it negative, we need to add the prefix unable. But if you see, we also have the, so we need a noun because we have an article. So we need to add then the suffix ity, so that becomes inability, right? So failure to follow a sensible diet can result in the inability to maintain stamina. So then here, if you see, this is what we do basically. We find the correct prefixes and suffixes to change the words so that they match the content of our text. So this is an example of part 3. Now, how do we prepare for part 3 of the use of English section? My suggestion is that you write a list of at least 100 common words in English. They could be words that you know, that you're interested in, or that you find in different sources such as textbooks, and I suggest Empower C1. Now they have to be content words. Okay, content words, if you remember, I mean nouns, verbs, adjectives, and then you're going to create a table where you transform this base word into different parts of speech, right? So you're going to complete a table like this one. I have the word happy, and then I transform, it's an adjective, okay, so I can create some nouns such as happiness and unhappiness. I cannot change a verb, there are no verbs that we can make with a with. And then we can create some other adjectives. For example, if it's happy, we can make it happier and happiest, the comparative. And then unhappy, unhappier, unhappiest. And then we can also transform these into verbs, happily, unhappily. So if you see from one base word, I could create like lots of new words. You can check these, to make sure that they're correct. You can look them up in the dictionary, and then you can transform the word. Try to find as many different words as possible using a base word. Okay, so you just need to add or take off some prefixes or suffixes, and this is how you can prepare. So you can see new words and you can create new words. This is going to help you a lot to prepare for part 3 of the use of English section of Cambridge's C1 Advanced. Now let's look at part 4 of the use of English section. In this one, you will be given a model sentence and a key word. So you should be able to rephrase the sentence keeping exactly the same meaning using the new word. If everything is correct, you get 2 points, and if you make a mistake, if the sentence is partially correct, you will get 1 point. Let's do some examples together. 25. My brother now earns far less than he did when he was younger. And we have the word nearly. So we can see that it's a comparison, and obviously this will be easy if we say my brother doesn't earn nearly as much now as when he did when he was younger. So that is the missing part. It's important to say here that we can also use the contraction doesn't earn nearly as much, and it's the same thing. 26. They are demolishing the old bus station and replacing it with a new one. And we have the word pull. Now we know that the word pull, if you combine it with the word down, to pull down is the same thing as demolish. So then it's very easy. We have to change it. The old bus station is being pulled down and being replaced with a new one. Or we can say also the bus station is to be pulled down and replaced with a new one. We can see that we change this into the passive, and we use the key word to replace the word demolish. So to pull down and to demolish have the same meaning, and these are the 2 ways in which we can rephrase this sentence. Let's look at the real other examples. 28. I'm disappointed with the Fishers' new album when I compare it to the previous one. And we have the word comparison, so it's very easy because we know that we need to say I think the Fishers' new album is disappointing in comparison to or with the previous one. Or we can also say I think the Fishers' new album is a disappointment in comparison to or with their previous one. Let's look at 29 now. Anna got the job even though she didn't have much experience in public relations. So we have here this connector even though, that is going to be replaced with spite, but we know that spite is a phrase linker, so we're going to change it this way. Anna got the job in spite of her lack of experience in public relations, right? So we have here lack of experience in spite of her lack of experience. Very good. Let's do the last one. 30. I must warn you how dangerous it is to cycle at night without any lights, said the police officer to Max. So then we have the word dangerous, and obviously we can say here, because the police officer is warning him, we can say a warning. So Max received a warning about the dangers of cycling at night without any lights. And there are different options here, because we can say, instead of about, we can say concerning the dangers or regarding the dangers, and instead of using the dangers of cycling, we can also say the dangers when cycling at night, okay, without any lights. So these are the ways in which we're going to transform the sentence. Max received a warning about the dangers of cycling at night without any lights from the police officer. So as you can see in part 4, You need to have that flexibility to transform a sentence using a new word that is given, transforming the word sometimes or adding some elements, and then obviously transform the whole sentence so that it keeps exactly the same meaning. So this is part 4. Now again, how can we prepare for part 4 of the use of English section? My suggestion is that you make a list of at least 30 multi-word verbs, these phrasal verbs that we all know, and then obviously that you find a list of at least 10 C1 level grammatical structures. You can look them up in Empower C1 if you want. And then what you need to do is you need to practice transforming these sentences using different structures and keeping the same meaning. This means that the phrasal verbs can be expressed with other verbs that are not phrasal verbs, that are not multi-word verbs, with one word. Remember, demolish, pull down. It's the same meaning. Pull down is a multi-word verb. Demolish is a single word verb. So then you can transform them. For example, you can write the sentence, I will do your homework provided you lend me your car for the weekend, and then with the keyword unless, right? And you need to keep the same meaning. So in this case, I will say, I will not do your homework unless you lend me your car for the weekend. So we have the same meaning, and we're transforming. We need to be flexible in the use of the language. So you can create your own exercises by writing sentences using multi-word verbs and then transforming them into another kind of sentence. It's important to say that sometimes you can change them from active to passive, right? You can change nouns into verbs, you can change verb into nouns, you can change adjectives into adverbs, and so on. So work on your flexibility for using the language, and you will be successful in part 4 of the use of English section. Okay, so let me finish this lesson just with some concluding remarks. First of all, we need to remember parts 2 and 3 are worth 1 mark. That means that every correct answer gives you 1 point. Now in part 4, a correct answer is 2 marks and a partially correct answer is 1 mark. Okay, so this means that if your question is absolutely correct, you get 2 points, and if it's partially correct, you get 1 point. Now another thing that is important for you to remember is that there are 28 marks in total. That means that if you have all of the correct answers in this section of the test, you will get 28 points. And you need only 18 points. You need only 18 correct answers, 18 points, in order to obtain the B2. So I want you to pay attention to this, because if you see, you have lots of opportunities to get the B2, because you can miss 10 points and still be a B2. And of course, if you have all of the answers correct, you will not have a B2, but you will have a C2, and this will give you the opportunity to get a lower score in another part of the test and still get the B2. So you have to take the advantage and make as many points as you can in that section, so that you can later take advantage of those points in other sections of the test where you probably are a little weaker or where you don't feel so sure about. And this is basically what you need to do. So I will post some practice exercise on Classroom. Please feel free to answer any questions. If you have them, you can write to me by the Facebook Messenger, or you can just type your answers on Classroom. Good luck with your tasks. Have a good week, and I will be seeing you next time. Good luck.